Hi there, Philip here. In this video, you are going to learn how to make the objects transparent in a 2D game. So when the player or some character is going to the object, you would like to create an effect that the character is behind the object. So let's take a look at this. I'm walking in the front of it. It looks like I'm in the front. Then I will go a little bit higher. The object is fading out, and we have this nice fade out effect that looks like that I am behind. Alright, same for this tree. Alright. And for the house, when I'm looking in the front of the house, nothing is happening. It looks like I'm in the front. I will go a little bit higher. The house is faded out, and I am behind it. Okay, so that's the effect you are going to learn today. It will be very simple. Let's start. This is my scene setup. I have here a player. I have here a green tree, a tree without the leaves, and one house. All of these game objects are displayed through the sprite renderer, so all of these objects have a sprite render attached to them. As you see, house has a sprite renderer, green tree has a sprite renderer, tree has a sprite renderer, and also my player has a sprite renderer. My player has a lot of other components attached to it because I have already worked on this game, so I have the movement figured out. I have implemented animations and so all this stuff, but that's not really important for this lecture. So also my player has a sprite render, as you see here, okay? And important note here, order of the layer is higher than all of the game objects here as the trees and the house. So as you will look at the sprite renderer, order in layer for my player is 200. For all of my other game objects, such as house, tree, and green tree, is 190. So the player will be in front of the object. So when I will play the game, my player will be in front of them when I will be moving them through them. So that's a base setup. That's how you should end up. So when the player will go through the object, see the player is in front of it. Okay? And this solution works only for sprite render, as what I will show you. Okay, so let's implement a couple of things. What we want to do, we want to attach some components to our game objects and also one to our player. Okay, so we'll go to our coding editors and we'll implement a couple of things. I have here a folder called Showcase where I will be creating all these scripts. In a Showcase folder, I will create a new mono behavior and I will create a script to identify my player. So I'll create here a new mono behavior. I will call it character. I will call it this mono behavior character. Nothing really interesting here. I'll remove the update. I don't really need an update. Start with need. And as I told you, all of my game objects has a sprite renderer. So I'll try to get here the sprite renderer of my character. So I'll write here private sprite renderer, and I will call it sprite renderer like this. And in start, I will get it. So I'll get the sprite renderer, get component, and sprite renderer for my player like this. And also get here one getter function to get this sprite renderer so I can access it also from outside. So I'll get it like this, sprite renderer, and return here sprite renderer like this. Okay, so that's my character mono behavior. Okay, I will save this and I will create a mono behavior now for the fading effect. So when the player will go through the object, I would like to fade it out. So in a new mono behavior, and I will call it renderer fader. So let's create here a new script and let's call it renderer fader. All right, let's write here renderer fader mono behavior, and here we need start and also update. So I will leave it here. Okay, so we have a character, we have a renderer fader. Okay, we'll go back to Unity. We'll wait until this will recompile and we'll attach this script. So we'll attach one script to the player, one to one of our objects. So let's start with this green tree here. Okay, so I will go to the player, and as I have here a sprite renderer, I will add here component, and this one we are calling character. I'll attach here character, and I will go to the green tree, and in green tree I will attach your component. I will call this one I called renderer fader. So I have here a renderer fader, and here I have my player. Perfect. Please verify that the script has been attached successfully. Now to both of these objects, I will attach also collider so they can collide with each other, because that's how I will detect the collision between them, and I will know whenever to fade out the object. So here on this green tree, I will add here component. I will call it, I will get here a capsule collider 2D. Here's my capsule. All right, and I hope you can see, I'll put it a little bit higher. So capsule collider and edit collider. I will make it a little bit smaller, like this, a little bit smaller from the left side, from the right side, like this. All right, so if you're happy with the collider, also please toggle here is trigger. So this is a trigger collider, like this. Okay, now we'll go to our player. We'll do the same thing. So I'll go to my player. I'll add here component, capsule collider 2D. I will again the same thing. I'll create here a nice collider like this. All right, so we know whenever we are colliding. Okay, so we have a collider. So now we want to detect that we want to detect if these two are colliding. So back to our scripts. Okay, back in our scripts, in the renderer fader, we will write here, we will get here functions on trigger enter 2D, and similar one on trigger how it's called, on trigger exit 2D, like this. Okay, so both of them like this, and when the trigger will happen, we'll try to detect if the object that triggered this event was a player, was a character. So we'll try to get here character when we are colliding with this with a tree, when the player collides with a tree. Okay, so on trigger enter, you'll write here if statement, and you'll write here, we'll try to get from the collision the character. So we'll write here if collision, try to get component character. So if the component is character, we need to also get it from the variable out variable character. Then the collision we have been triggering the collision, so we'll write here debug log on trigger enter 2D. All right, I'll do the same thing for exit. All right, and here will be on trigger exit 2D like this. Okay, now we can save it and we can see we are detecting the collision. So back to our Unity, we'll try to go and collide with a tree. Okay, so here, let's play it. And now when you will see, you should notice console. When I will go through a tree, you should see on trigger enter. When I will go out, on trigger exit. That's these two console logs you should see in your console, on trigger enter and on trigger exit. Okay, perfect. So now we can do some functionality. We'll go back to our code. And we'll introduce here a couple of variables. I'll write here a private variable. And this variable will tell me if I should be fading out the object. So I will write here, we'll call it fade out enabled. So Boolean and fade out enabled, and it will be by default false. Okay, so when I will trigger here with the character this trigger enter, so when the player colliding with the tree, then we would like to enable the fading out of the object. So what we will do here, we will write here m_fade out enabled true, and similarly we'll do the same thing here, but here will be false because we shouldn't be fading out. And also here, before we'll trigger this, we want to make sure if it's already triggered. Okay, so if it's already triggered, fade out enabled, we would like to return from here like this. And the same thing on trigger exit, if we are already fading, if this is already disabled, then we won't like to return. So notice these two if statements here before we will even check if we have a collision with the character. Okay, now back to up here to update. And in the update now, we can, depending on this variable, true or false value, we can say if we should be fading out or not. So in update, I'll write here again if statement. I'll write here if fade out enable is true. It's equal to true, or actually I can just write it like this. If fade out is enabled, then debug log here fading out. Otherwise, debug log not fading out. Okay, so let's see if our if statements are correct. Okay, here is the code. Let's save this. Let's go back to Unity, and once again we need to see our console logs. So when I will be moving through the object, we should see here, you can see not fading out by the default. When I will go through, fading out, going out, not fading out. So that's, for now, that's what you should see. Perfect. So now we have these variables that will tell us if we should be fading out the object or we shouldn't be fading out the object. Okay, now we'll create a functionality to fade out the object actually, right? Because that's the point of it. So we will write here a new function, private void, we'll call it fade out like this, and we'll create one function to reset the fade out. So I'll call it just a reset object, or reset fade out or fade in. Yeah, we can call it fade in. All right. Fade out and fade in. So fade out, when fade out is enabled, we should be going fade out, and here we should go fade in. All right. Okay, so what we want to do here, we would like to here manipulate the colors of the sprite renderer. Okay, so when I will show you here, sprite renderer, for example, this green tree, then we'll be triggering this variable to fade out the object. What we want to do here, we just want to access the color of the sprite renderer, and we would like to access the alpha value of it, and we would like to decrease it a little bit so it's a transparent, so you'll be able to see the player behind it. Okay, so we just want to play with the alpha value here through the code. Okay, well, let's get back and let's prepare this functionality. So in a fade out, okay, so we need to first access the sprite renderer here of this object, of the tree, for example. So up here, we'll create here a new variable, and actually we'll access the array of this renderer. So we'll get here sprite renderer, sprite renderer array, like this, and we'll call it sprite renderers, like this. Why I'm accessing why I want to get multiple ones. For example, in the cases we have the objects like house, which has a couple of other children game objects which are also sprite renderers. This house has a door, which is sprite renderer, is a chimney, which is sprite renderer. It has this table on the left, and all of these windows, for example, are sprite renderers. So that's why we would like to get the array by default. Okay, some of the objects they have just one sprite renderer, some of them can have a multiple sprite renderers, and we would like to manipulate the opacity of them, of all of them. Okay, so let's get back to our code. We'll be accessing the array of the sprite renderers. Okay, so in a start here, I'll get all the sprite renderers. So sprite renderers get components in children, plural, because you're getting an array, and you want to get all of the sprite renderers like this. Okay. Now when it will be fading out, so let's go to fade out. You want to iterate all of them. So for each, for variable renderer in sprite renderers, and the same for the fade in, like this. Now I will create here one function, and I will call it change opacity. So private void change opacity, and in change opacity I'll get the renderer, so sprite renderer. All right. And my target opacity, so float target, let's call it renderer here, renderer, and float target alpha. So it will be our target opacity. Okay, so in change opacity, we would like to extract the color from the renderer. So we'll get here variable color, and I'll get here renderer color. Okay, and then I will smooth it out. So we'll create a new color. So color, smooth color, because we don't want to go from alpha 1 to alpha 0.5. We would like to smooth out the functionality. So it's nice transition. So we'll create here a new color like this. We will provide here all of the values of the old color. So for RGB, so color R, color G, and color GB. .b, and as the alpha value, this will be the alpha value will be changing. So we'll write here function mat F and move towards like this. And now we would like to go from the original color, so color alpha, all right, to the target color, so to the target alpha like this. And we would like to get there in a time, delta time, and I would like to have a faster transition, so I will multiply time delta time by 2. Okay, and don't forget the semicolon in the end. And then I have this smooth color, and I will get the renderer color, and I will access this new smooth color there. So this will be the change opacity functionality. And now in the fade out, I will get here change opacity for each renderer, and my target in fade out will be, let's say, 0.3 opacity, and fade in, of course, you would like to go to the 1 opacity, like this. So that's the functionality. Okay, so don't forget, if you are fading out, it's enabled, you are fading out, fading in. This is the functionality for it. Now let's save this. Back to Unity, and now you should see whenever the player will go over the object, the object should be fading out. All right, so play this, and when player will be going over the game object, the object is fading out. Okay, the effect is not complete yet. We don't want to have it this way, because also the player should appear like, in some cases it's behind it, but player is still full of opacity, but already it's better, right? So if you have this implemented, it's already looks better. Okay, so couple of other improvements. For example, I will go and change this on the 3D collider. I will make it smaller, for example, because when the player is going here in front, we should not be fading it out. Only when the player will go higher here, then we would like to fade it out. So I'll just make it smaller like this. Okay, just this part here. So when I will play it, this will already look better, because now when I will go in front of it, it looks like I'm in front, right? I will go a little bit higher, now I'm in the back. And of course, you can move collider even higher. So this is now the effect I want. Okay, so when we'll be fading out the object this way, we would like to also place the player behind the object. So it's appearing the player is behind it, because this doesn't look very natural. Okay? So I'll shut this down. I will go to the code and we'll implement this functionality. So this will be handling here. So first I will need to get my player to some variable so I can change the sorting layer, because what we want to basically do when the player is appearing like a behind here, we like to change the sorting layer so the player can be really behind it. So I want to get basically player, all right? And I would like to get a sorting layer of the player. So sorting layer is 200. I would like to get for a lower value. So it's a lower value than the object in front of it, behind it. So for example, I will get to the 100 or some lower value. So basically the effect will be this, that the player will appear behind it. Okay, you can see this is much better, because it's appearing like a player is behind this tree. Okay, but of course now when I'll go in front, it's behind it. It looks only good when the tree is transparent. Okay, so let's move the player back to its order layer 200 like this. Okay, now back to our code. When we will trigger enter, we would like to store the characters or a player to some variable. So up here, I will create here a new private variable. I will call it, first the type is a character. I will call it interactor. It will be the object that's interacting with this game object, which would be fading out. So interactor, getting interactor, and on trigger enter, interactor is our character like this. Okay. Then also we'll store the basic actually, we don't need to store the opacity, but we would like to store here the sorting layer, which I showed you, which was the value of 200. I was changing it manually in the inspector. So I'll create here also variable, private, it's actually integer, and this will be the order. I will call it sprite order or sort order. I'll call it initial sort order, like this, and I will get it here. So initial sort order will be character, sprite renderer, and sorting order like this. So it will be initial sort order. Now, we would like to change the order here in if and else. But first, I will create here two new variables, const float, and this will be my variables that will be holding the opacity I would like to go to. So this will be its values. I'm providing here manually 0.3 and 1. Okay, so create here these variables. I will call it visible underscore alpha. This will be value 1. All right, and const float will be transparent underscore alpha, and it will be 0.3f, like this. So visible alpha and transparent alpha. I'll get these variables, and here I'll can replace this for the transparent alpha and here for visible alpha, like this. Now, instead of these if statements here, what we have here, when we are fading out, I'll write here another if statement. And I would like to check if my object is already fully faded out. So this one of these sprite renderers here, I would like to check if it's already fully faded out. So actually to get it, I'll get this, I'll create here a new getter. So I'll create here a private sprite renderer, and I will call it first renderer. And this basically will be from my array of sprite renderer, it will be first item, so the index of 0, so it will be my first renderer. And I will get here private, and I will call this one first renderer alpha, so I can get the alpha value of it. So I'll get here private float, first render. Let's not call it first renderer, actually let's call it, let's say, background object. Yeah, better name, background object. Yeah, this is my tree or house or whatever. So background object, and this I will call it background object alpha. And this will be my background object color and A for alpha. Okay, and here in the update, I'll write an if statement. And if my background object alpha is equal to my transparent alpha, like this, then I will get the interactor, so it will be my character, which is interacting with this tree or house or whatever. And I would like to get its sprite renderer and sorting order. And I will get my background object sorting order, so sorting order and -1. So it will be lower. It will be, now the player will be appearing behind the object. So you can see I'm getting just this background object, and I'm just adding here -1, and that's what I'm assigning to the player. And similarly in the fade in, we will be putting it back to the original value. So here I'll get my sorting order of the player, and here I will toggle it to the original value which we are holding in initial order here, like this. Okay, and also one improvement I would like to handle here, we would like to execute fade out enabled only at the end if the fade out is enabled, and also if my background object alpha, all right, is larger than a transparent alpha, like this. So it will be one of the conditions. We would like to only do the fade out only if the background object alpha is larger than the transparent alpha. Okay, and in the else also I will add this additional condition. I would like to call else only if fade out is disabled. So fade out disabled. So exclamation mark fade out enabled, and background object alpha is smaller than visible alpha, like this. And what we are missing here, we have here column. Why is complaining? Else if. All right, my mistake. Else if, and here are brackets. Oh, okay, so let's test it out. These are set up. Let's see, and it actually should work already. Okay, so let's play it. Okay, So I'll going through here. I'm up here. I'll go here. And now you can see the player is appearing behind. So I'm here, up, and player is behind. Player is in front. I'll go a little bit higher. Where is my collider? And now the sorting order of the player is changing. You can see it's 189. They'll go out. It's 200. Okay, maybe we want to sit closer. And we're moving. Everything is good. When I go a little bit higher, now the player is behind. You can see it's out. Everything is good. Going back here. And that's at least for my game, that's what I want to have. Like, I want to have it this way. Okay, this of course doesn't work with other objects because you need to add colliders to them. But yeah, let's do it. So let's go to the other object here. This one here. And just add here whatever collider you want. Capsule collider is trigger. Adjust it. All right, this way. Okay, here. Okay, let's apply this. Actually, it will not work because we need also fader here. So fader, renderer, fader. Okay, so you have to have a capsule collider and fader. So let's see, all good. And now we are behind. Okay, so that's the effect I want to have. Okay, it works great. Now the house, so let's do the house. So big house. On the big house, to the first render, I'll just add a component. This can be box collider to the and trigger, and it will be like something like this. All right, let's say this way. Like this maybe. And of course, if you don't want to go player to the front part here, you can add here normal collider. So the player will collide with it and it will not go through the base of the house. Okay, but that's, I will leave it up to you. But okay, I will leave it this way. This I can make it lower. Let's try the house. Okay, all right, you can see all good. Go here a little bit higher. We don't have a fader on the house, right? So that can be a problem. So don't forget to add a fader to the object which you want to fading out. One more time. Okay, here. And now it's fading out. We could move the collider a little bit higher. Yeah, that's how it looks. Okay, I think that's quite a good effect, and you can also, of course, improve it, but you get the idea. Okay. All right, so that's it. That's all the scripts. Not much coding. Actually, that's why I like this solution. You just need the faders and spread renderers and colliders. That's it. You need to have just one script renderer fader. With all this code, of course, you can optimize this code a little bit more, but you got the main idea. And also characters. You should have some character scripts attached to your player, which is controlling the movement and all of this stuff. And yeah, so that's the basic functionality. The code will be attached to the resources of this lecture, this video in the description. And if you want to hear more about these tutorials, you can subscribe to the newsletter for Ryan Code. Yeah, that's it. That's all from me. It was a little bit long, but nothing implementation stuff-wise is not short, and it always takes time. See you around. Cheers. Phillips out.